Hi, my name's Libby, and I'm Cheeky Mare Stitches, both here on FlossTube now and on Instagram. I am doing FlossTube number 1. I'm going to do the Know Your Needleworker tag first, and then I'm going to do a WIP parade. So let's get started. The first question is, where do you live? I live in Indianapolis, Indiana. I've lived there all my life, although I've spent a lot of time in the Pacific Northwest, Seattle area. That's where my mom is from. What do I do for a living? I'm an engineering draftsman. That's a fancy way of saying I draw stuff for a living. And I work for a civil company that designs wastewater treatment plants. So I know more about where your poop goes than I ever wanted to. But it takes poop. Sludge is the term. It takes poop and we turn it back into water that is clean for the environment. It's not quite drinkable yet. It has to go through another process to be drinkable, but it is clean for the environment. So that's fun. The next question is, what are your 3 favorite hobbies other than cross stitch? So I started out as a needle pointer. My Aunt Susie got me into it 8 years ago, I think. My first project was a gift for a friend for her wedding, and I was poor at that time. So I needed a beautiful and meaningful gift for very little money. So I needle pointed her a pillow that she still has. I also am a quilter. So I started quilting 5-6 years ago. I've made a dozen or so. I own only 2. The rest have been gifts. And if I was going to do a quilting work in progress, that would be a long list as well. And then the third hobby I haven't done in a while because I haven't had a whole lot of time, but I used to horseback ride quite regularly, dressage and hunt seat mostly. And it's a lot of fun and I miss it. Eventually I'd like to get back to it. The next question is, do you have any children? No, I do not. I'd like some, but currently I do not have any children. Number 5 is, do you have any pets? I have one boxer German Shepherd mix. Her name is Anya. She is 9. The next question is, what is your favorite movie? My favorite movie is The Shawshank Redemption. I'm a big fan of mysteries that wrap up at the end, and Morgan Freeman's beautiful voice. The next question is, what is your favorite TV show? So I have very dark humor, and so I like anything death related. So my favorite TV show is a Showtime show, or was a Showtime show, say that 5 times fast, called Dead Like Me, and it's about Grim Reapers and their day-to-day life. And I also like Dexter, which is about a benevolent serial killer, if that is the thing. I know, very morbid, but you like what you like. The next question is, what is your favorite music? So it depends on my mood. I'm very eclectic. I should not say as much. If you looked at my iPod on any given day, you would think I might be schizophrenic because I will listen to classics, like old classics like Nat King Cole and The Temptations, but I also have some like Disturbed and Trapped and a little bit of country, but not much. I'm very picky about the country. Not a big fan of the newer stuff, but I think that happens to everyone. The next question is, what is your favorite book? So I don't really have a favorite book. I have a reading disability, so it's very hard for me to read. I have learned that I like to read, but it takes me a long time. So I have to get into a series that I really like. So my favorite series is The Incarnations of Immortality by Piers Anthony. And actually, Dead Like Me was based on the TV show, was based on the first book, On a Pale Horse, in that series. And so I found that book series through Dead Like Me. And it's pretty interesting. It's a sci-fi / magic mashup, which is pretty interesting. The next question is, who inspired me to do FlossTube, to make a FlossTube? So I watch a lot of FlossTube. I listen to it while I'm drawing the poop plants. And so I really like XGS She is super cute and has enabled me to buy many things. I think the first FlossTuber that I saw and that got me into it was probably Michelle Bendy Stitchy. She's really neat, and she does lots of really nice things. I really love Handwork Maniac. She is super cute and does really beautiful work. And I'm also a big fan of Caroline from Off the Grid Needle Arts. Also a very lovely, kind woman, she seems. And just super fun. And she actually is the one who's responsible for my love of higher counts. She talked me into it, unbeknownst to her. I'm going to add a few questions that I think should be added to the Know Your Needleworker. I mean, you could probably guess which ones, what my preferences are, but I'll just be upfront about it. So I've added, what is my favorite count and stitch? So count of fabric and style of stitch. So my favorite count is the higher counts. So 56, 40, 46. I know I'm crazy. I don't really like Ada. I have one project that's on Ada that I didn't even bring because it's in timeout. And my favorite type of stitching is 1/1 because or 1/2. Because I love the little dainty X's, and you don't have to lay your threads nicely because I'm a little lazy like that. So the second question that I'd like to add is, are you a hoop, in-hand, or stand stitcher? So I like to stitch two-handed, so I'm a stand stitcher, and I use a Q-snap most of the time. I do stitch with a hoop occasionally at work, at lunch, not during work, that would be bad. But my dad bought me a wonderful lap stand for Christmas last year, and I have used the heck out of it. I also use a lighted magnifying glass for the higher counts, because even with my young eyes, it is still kind of hard to see. And then the last question that is an original question for this is, what one word describes you best? And I would say cheeky, of course. So the reason I'm cheeky mare is I had a boyfriend in college who was British, and I would always play tricks on him. He would always call me a cheeky mare because, it can mean one of two things. It can mean a lady of the night, or it could mean a trickster, intelligent woman. So I was hoping he used the latter. But so now what you guys are all looking forward to is the WIP parade, because who cares about the needleworker? It's the eye candy you're looking for. And I am going to do them in reverse order of starts, approximate. Don't hold me to it 100%. And so the 18th WIP, or the first WIP that I'm going to show you today, is Quaker Seasons of Friendship. And this was enabled by XStitchMD and Caroline of Off the Grid Needle Arts. And it is a crown and thistle designs. And I have done it on a 40 count linen that I bought from Hand Dyed by Rolanda on Etsy. It's a 40 count. I said that, and I'm doing it with a Silken Colors chimney sweep 1/2. And here is where I am. Maybe it'll focus. Maybe not. I'm not very far. I just started it. But look at that beautiful fabric by Hand Dyed by Rolanda. Just beautiful. Just frame the fabric. I bought a fat half of this colorway afterwards that I'm going to do a long bell pull with, and then have a bunch of extra. The next WIP that I have, work in progress, for those of you who are new, WIP, is called Santa Rides, and it is by Prairie Schooler. I'm doing it on a 40 count linen Harvest by Victorian Motto with a mostly Weeks Dye Works conversion. I'm doing it 1/2. So here's where I am. And it is a collection of 6 ornaments of different transportations. And it's showing up a little lighter. There we go. That's pretty true to color. Very like my skin color. Anyway. Just a beautiful, beautiful fabric. And I am a member of Victorian Motto's Fabric of the Month Club. So that is always a nice surprise. My 16th WIP, 16, holy crap, is Mermaids Folly. And it's by Cortney Collections. I'm doing this on a 56 count linen. Maybe I should show you. Oh, look at that. It's beautiful. 56 count linen, and using a Silk in Colors Asian Plum 1/2. There's a little bit of 1/1 in the Lady Bits part. And the colorway is Golden Honey by Barbara Creations, also an Etsy purchase. Just look at those little tiny stitches, if it'll focus. I don't know. But look at this fabric. It is beautiful as well. Such a beautiful marble mottled finish. The bendy stitchy. Anyway, the next WIP I have is called Unicorn Tapestry. It is on a 40 count linen that I forget the color. I bought it from 123 Stitch. I think it's like smoky blue or something like that. I'm using my own DMC conversion to match a WIP that I will show you later. And here is where I am. Very teeny tiny. And because I'm a quilter and I'm cheap, I buy a smaller amount of fabric and just put extra muslin around the side. So anyway, that's part of the flags around the unicorn. The next one is in a bag, so I'm sorry for the crinkling. It is called Autumn is Coming Mini Quaker. I'm doing it on a 28 count even weave with a Weeks Dye Works conversion. 2/2 on a peach rose Lugana, and here's where I am. So the cover picture, which if my brother helped me edit it, you have already seen, is much more purple and orange than the chart would lead you to believe. The called for threads. And so I just bought a bunch of weeks on 1, 2, 3 stitch of a bunch of different purples and oranges, browns, and I decided, well, I'll just use the ones that I think are the prettiest, because that's the way I roll. And I'm trying to make them pretty so that you can see them. And I will put up a piece of white. These are the colors I purchased. They're very similar to each other. And so I'm just picking and choosing where I'm going to put them on the chart. So, fun stuff. The next WIP I have is my first 56 count. That I bought. I bought this on eBay, this fabric, so I don't know who it's made by. It's got an orange stripe though, so apparently that tells somebody something. But it is Ink Circles Growth Rings, like I said, on a 56 count fabric. Oops, upside down. And it is the colorway Cream. I'm using a Silken Colors, the darker color is a variegated, and it's Elephant and Castle. And then the lighter variegated color is a XGS Designs Silk. And it came in one of her variety packs. I'm doing this 1/2. Just beautiful. And I have the threads. But here is Elephant and Castle. And that's pretty close. It's a bunch of navy blues and purples and teal variegated, but it's on the darker spectrum instead of the brighter spectrum. And then the XGS Designs Silk. Beautiful silk. Good luck finding it, because I went and bought all of her extra because I love it. And my brother's computer went off. Okay, good. So it is also purples and teals and blues, but it is on the lighter side. So it was almost like they were made to go together. Next one is Prisoner from Azkaban by Frogwood Manor. It is on a, let me put something behind it because it's more see-through than the others. Well, not my paper. It is on a 25 count even weave. It's the called for DMC. It's 1/1 and it's easy grid. One of my 2 full coverages. I don't particularly care for full coverages. I'm like a hybrid between a process stitcher and a progress stitcher. I don't know what those are called. But I think that some of the Hades, though beautiful, eventually I'd like to finish them, and I don't think that I would. So this is not a Hade, but it is full coverage. All right, the next one is Twisted Band Sampler by Northern Expressions. It's on a 40 count mystery linen. I'm using XGS Designs Silk and a Silken Color both of them the variety packs that I got. In fact, the Ink Circles variety variegated came in this pack, and then I bought all the extra because I'm greedy, but whatever. So here's where I am. I'm doing the specialty stitches, and I will show you my colorway here. So here is my variety pack. Silken Colors and XGS, and they're just so pretty. So pretty. I've got them, this is not the order they're going to be going in, but it is, I took a picture of it so I know what order they're going to go in. So pretty and bright and so purple. Purple is me. The 10th WIP of mine is Danish Needlework, and it's on a 40 count. Oh, it's called Permin of Copenhagen. Permin of Copenhagen. And it's by Danish Art Needlework. It's on a 40 count mallow that I bought from 123 Stitch. I'm using the Weeks Dye Works Blackberry. And I chose that because although these are, I think, flowers, they look to me like you're looking down on the end of a blackberry. So, you know, and blackberries are my favorite fruit, so it works out. Anyway, if you couldn't tell, I am pretty sporadic about where I start. I started this in the bottom right of the pattern. Started Northern Expressions in the top left. I start in the middle sometimes. I'm just wherever I think is pretty first, I guess, or easiest to count to. Right, the next one is a fan favorite, at least when I'm a fan, and it is Quaker Diamonds by Rosewood Manor. It is on a 36 count linen called Bittersweet, and I bought it from 123 Stitch. Here's where I am. And again, I'm cheap, so I just added fabric on the end, but I am using a Weeks Dye Works conversion instead of the called for silks, and I think it looks pretty darn good, if you ask me, which you didn't, but you're watching me, so you did. The next one is a mashup. So I love watching Stitching Mommy. Her whips give me a headache because there's like 50 of them. But it is interesting to see the variety. So, and I mean, I can't really talk. I've got 20 whips, 18 of which you're going to see today. But, so when Stitchin' Mommy put up her temperature tree, I loved it and I went and grabbed it. But I wanted a little bit more variation on the trunk, so I found another pattern called Yoga Tree of Life by AnnyFunnyXx on Etsy. And I think it's given it a little bit of pizzazz, if I do say so myself. And it's on a 32 count Weeks, and I've used the called for DMC, except for the trunk. I used a Weeks Dye Works Molasses, and here's where I am. So I've finished the tree, and I'm caught up through June. And you can see the Yoga Tree of Life. Now I like to 1/2 stitch, and so the coverage isn't great. but I don't care. I like it. I think it's pretty. The next one is Fairy Flora by Mirabilia. And it is on a 32 count linen of barnwood. And it's using the called for DMC. And here is where I am. So pretty. And it has blackberries on it. I haven't stitched any of them, but it has blackberries on it. So fairies really aren't my thing, but my Aunt Susie, who got me needle pointing, also was very fond of fairies. She died a year ago this week from cancer and complications from the chemo. And so I am doing this Mirabilia fairy in honor of her, and it has blackberries on it. And it's a small Mirabilia. I'm doing a lot of things in honor of Susie. She was like my second mom, and a very wonderful woman and a beautiful stitcher. Someday maybe I'll send you some pictures of her stitching, if I can find any. The next WIP that I have, number 6, and remember I'm going in reverse order, is Templar Prophecy by Long Dog Sampler. And I'm using a 28 count Joblin of some green fabric. I don't know what color. And I'm using a Silks for You thread, 2/2. And here is where I am. And this was my first variegated thread. And I like how this band turned out. But I'm not liking how the dragon and this band is turning out. I also am not fond or thrilled of the fabric anymore. I like larger count now, and this is a 28 count 2/2. So I may restart this one. That will be the second restart. Yes, the second restart. I started this out on a very dark fabric, and this was when I was first starting to cross stitch, and I didn't realize that dark fabric meant hard to see. So I don't know. I'm in 2 fabric of the month clubs. One is a 40 count and one is a 46 count, and if one of them will fit and looks good with this silk for you color, I may restart that. Probably restart it. And do it 1/2 instead of 2/2. All right. The next WIP I have is a gift for my niece. So my Aunt Susie. Do you see the theme? My Aunt Susie cross-stitched or needle-pointed stockings for all of the children who didn't have parents who crafted. And I am going to try and continue that tradition by cross-stitching stockings for the little ones. So the first one I'm practicing on is my niece Madeline. And I am doing Father Christmas by Kooler Design Studios. I'm using mostly the called for DMC. If I didn't have it, I just substituted a close version. Yeah, shame on me. Anyway, I'm doing it 2/2 on a 32 count even weave of the colorway Phoenix. And here is where I am. So pretty. I'm doing everything but the background. Like, this is supposed to be a full coverage, and like around the border is supposed to be a darker red. And I just said, screw that. I'm just gonna buy a red fabric. Save me some stitching, because I'm going to attempt to give this to her this Christmas. We'll see. And then her little brother needs one. which he'll get later. One a year. That's all I'm doing. All right. The next WIP I have is Blackberry. Oh, another theme. By Luba, Davies, all Atelier. Probably French, so I'm not saying it right. I'm doing it. Got some blends in it, which is fun. It's on a 28 count Jobelin, and I forget the colorway. I can tell you if you ask me later. I'm using the called for DMC 2/2, and this is where I am. I tried parking on this one. It's not a full coverage, but it's mostly full coverage until you get farther down. So I tried parking on here. I'm going to say that I am not a fan. I think I am a semi-cross-country person. So I don't do color completion, but I do color complete a thread in an area. Good for those people who do color complete, because that's insane. I get sick of a color. I need to switch it up a little bit. But the things I've seen with some of these ladies who do a lot of Hades, and gentlemen, I don't usually watch male. It has nothing to do with the sex. I don't care about the sex, but I don't usually watch male FlossTubers. But anyways, the next WIP I have is called Oren's Ravens, and it's Artist Alley is the designer. It's on a 32 count mystery linen that I got at my local needlework shop. And I'm doing mostly called for 2/2. I am switching out the grays. Here's where I am. I'm switching out the grays to be a more bronze color because I'm a Ravenclaw, and blue and bronze are prettier than blue and gray. My whole bathroom is Ravenclaw themed, so that will go in my bathroom eventually. The next one is continuing on that theme, called Ravenclaw House. It's by The Stitchery. It's on a 25 count easy grid. I'm doing the call for DMC 1/1, full cross. And here's where I am. I don't get very far on my full coverages, but eventually it'll be done. I may have moved out of my house by then, but eventually it'll be done. And my number one WIP, the reason that I became a cross stitcher. My Aunt Susie had a beautiful cross stitching picture, and she framed it in a beautiful frame, and I had loved it for years and years and years. But anyway, the piece that my aunt did was called Lady and Unicorn by Thea Gouverneur. And about a month after she died, I went online and I found a kit, and I said, all right, I'm going to be a cross stitcher now. And I bought the kit, and my goal was to finish it by her birthday this year. But when you see it, you'll see why that was maybe an ambitious idea. So here's what it will look like if my brother decides to edit in the picture. Here's what it will look like, and I will show you where it is now. So it is a large piece. And as you can see, I didn't really start in the center, but I got that in, that very last row in, just barely. But I did. And it is beautiful. And every time I stitch on it, I think of my Aunt Susie and how much love she had and what a wonderful person she was. And it just so happened when they were cleaning out her house that they found her chart of this. And it was a handwritten chart. And she had dated the pages and how long it took her to start and finish them. And it was so funny. It took her like 15 years to finish this. And I'm hoping it doesn't take me that long. But she also didn't have a single highlight. She didn't have a working copy. She didn't do any of that. So it was just neat to see. And I have hers and I have mine, and then I get to compare. So this was a kit. It's on a 28 count Joblin, I think. 27 count Joblin. And I did modify her face a little bit. She was a little cross-eyed. But other than that, I am using the kit floss and the kit fabric. So if you've never done a Thea Gouverneur kit, she does not give you DMC numbers. She just gives you the floss and the symbol. And I wanted to match, I wanted to know what they were. So I went to my local Hobby Lobby and sat on the floor and visually matched all, I think, 90 colors, maybe 60 colors that are in here. And that is the colorway that I'm using on the Tapestry by Tiny Modernist. So I'm using the same flosses on this one when I get to it as on this one to match, because I believe the Tiny Modernist was inspired by the tapestry that Thea took this from. So this is an actual like tapestry piece of artwork. So anyway, that is my floss tube. I tried to reduce the amount of ums and mistakes. Sorry I didn't iron anything. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. I'd be happy to answer them. If you liked what you saw and hope to see more, go ahead and subscribe and like. I really enjoy this community, and I don't do social media very much, but I know how inspiring and comforting these floss tubes have been for me during this time. So I'm hoping that I can do the same for someone else. So have a good day. Have fun, be safe, which is my go-to motto. I was safety captain on my robotics team in high school. So I'm a dork. Anyway, you have a good day and enjoy your stitching. Bye.